Are you tired of Maine? Don't you hate hearing when someone says they're going on vacation, they say they're going to Maine? I don't know about you guys, but I hate it. Yes, Maine is a beautiful state, but Maine is the old school cool. So let me introduce you to this new place a little away from Maine, and that place is in Vermont called Lake Champlain Islands. Lake Champlain Islands is huge. It even makes its way over to New York. And talking about every island in Lake Champlain would be a whole movie's worth of content. So I'm just going to talk about a small island in the Vermont lowlands, and that's called Burton Island. And a fun little aside about that is someone in this class goes to this island every year with his family. Yeah, I see you over there in the back. Yeah, you, back there. I see you. Burton Island opened in 1964 and is a very small island in Lake Champlain. Only 253 acres, which is only 0.4 miles or 2,112 feet. Going from one end to the other of the island could easily be walked in under an hour, but the shoreline goes 3 miles around the island. Being so small, you won't see many cars. In fact, the only cars you see on the whole island are the cars of the Vermont Park Rangers. The island, being a Vermont state park, is conserved by the state, or the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation, so they are only in charge of keeping the island safe and clean for the visitors of the island. Let's go over some of the history of the island. The island's landscape, like many islands, has gone through many changes throughout its 14,000 years of existence. Before this landscape even existed, it was covered by glaciers like most of New England, but then when the glaciers melted, it became a sea floor for this huge cold lake. Once it became a walkable landscape, it turned into a peninsula used by Native Americans. And then it was farmed extensively by European settlers from the 1800s to the 1950s, and then abandoned until 1962 when it became a Vermont state park. Farmers during the 1800s till it became a state park made mostly beans and corn, with cows, sheep, horses, and poultry being raised there. It was all then sent off to St. Albans, Vermont to be sold. So the landscape, as mentioned before, was all part of a peninsula. And in order to make it into an island, the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation turned it into the state park by taking dynamite to the surrounding area and turned it into the beautiful island it is today. Well then, now that we know at least some of the history of this beautiful island, let's talk about the island today in its current state, shall we? On the island, you see lots of red raspberries, or scientifically named staghorn sumacs, throughout, and those plants are some of the first plants to inhabit old abandoned fields. It does so well here on some of the island because of the big amounts of sunlight they require. You also see a lot of trembling aspen on this island. That is because the tree produces millions of tiny seeds that spread across the island from the wind. These trees grow about to be 5 to 10 feet long in just one whole year. Now these trees bring up the charismatic megafauna that I want to briefly talk about, and that is the beaver. Now the beaver isn't something you will probably see on this island much, or even at all, but the beaver is always coming to this island in hopes that it can finally make its habitat here. But when it realizes it can't, it never does anything but feast on these nice beautiful aspens that are on this island and leaves. Soil on this island is very thin, so only the strongest of plant and tree life can survive on it, and that is why you also see white and red cedars on some parts of the island where the soil is the thinnest. So why is the soil so thin? Well, that is because the farmland underneath was being pasteurized and plowed for over 100 years, and that does a real lot to the soil, making it very thin. The island has a nice shoreline and some really nice climax forest, which is a forest that has escaped disturbance by outside sources long enough to have settled into a state of relative stability. But it also has a small marshland on the island as well. But this marsh is undergoing succession and will soon be home to small shrubs and trees, making it a wetland no more. Now that we have some of what the trees are found on this island, let's look at how they are spread out across this beautiful island. Over here we have the main part, or the centerpiece of the island, where most of the people, the shop, the food, pretty much all of the main tourist attractions are going to be. And over here, which is the rest of the island, you will find all the trails, the marsh, the forest, pretty much everything else. The island being very small, you can only study so much before you know everything about the island, so as for research, they aren't really doing much. But the National Weather Service is always conducting research on the weather and the wind patterns of this island. It's not the funnest stuff, but very useful to the park keepers, and to anyone wanting to visit the island. Well, overall, I'd say the island is very nice, and a must go to for you people wanting to get away from society, and just enjoy yourself in nature. Well, that's all I got for you guys today, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and it has influenced you to go see this place for yourself.